Hello, Cliff here, and I'm in my shed. Sometimes in my shed I make coin rings, and if you've never seen a coin ring, I'll give you a close up and show you what one is. So the intriguing thing about a coin ring, this one's been made from an half crown, is that you've got the coin on the outside and you've got the coin on the inside. So, how's it done? That's the intriguing bit. Well, it's not that hard really. Basically what you do is get a coin, punch an hole through the middle of it and sort of turn it inside out. So that's all you wanted to know about coin ring making. You know it now. You don't have to watch anymore, but if you're a bit more interested in the details and how it's done, I'll be showing you in the little series. I think there's going to end up being about 4 videos on this, so I want to keep them reasonably short. I'll show you how it's done and show you how I've made I'll show you some of the tools that I've made to make coin rings. So this is how to make a coin ring, part 1. Right, so let's get started and make a coin ring. The coin I'm going to be doing this demonstration with is a 1953 half crown. I'm going to be using my coin punch, which is one that was made for the half crown one, so I'm not going to be needing the reduction dies. Then I'll be using the bigger punch because an half crown is quite wide enough even with a bigger punch. I'll be leaving the little punches out of it. So the first thing to do is to anneal it. So I'll pop over to the annealing area. So I'm just going to use a gas torch and heat the coin up to a red, but I'll do it and you can see what I'm doing. As you heat a copper nickel coin, will flash up the colours or the copper content in it, so don't be fooled by that and just make sure you get it to a nice red colour and then straight into water to quench it. And that's it, it's as simple as that. It will come out black, but that's nothing to worry about, we'll deal with that later. Alright, back to the bench. Right, so here's the coin, it's been annealed, looks pretty sad now, dirty, heated up. Right, now just a word about annealing. You really should do a little bit of homework on your coin before you anneal it, depending on obviously what coin you're doing. Copper nickel coins are made out of 75% copper and 25% nickel, and that's all the sort of British coins after 1947. Up until 68 when they changed to the decimal coins, and even after that decimal coins were the same. So it's predominantly copper, so to quench that, to anneal it, sorry, you hot it up and quench it. I mean, if you were to be doing a new steel 10p coin or something, they're made of steel, they're nickel plated steel, so if you wanted to anneal one of those, you'd have to hot it up and let it cool down. Basically, what I'm trying to get across is just do a bit of research into the coins you're going to be messing about with. I mean, I've done it in the past with some foreign coins where I've decided I would anneal them, and I don't know what they've been made out of. I think there was one time I had some sort of Greek coin, I started twatting it up and it just disappeared. It was made out of some sort of some sort of aluminium. I've got no idea. I didn't look into it. I didn't find out what it was made out of. Stuck the gun on it and it literally disappeared. It just melted. So just a word on, do a little bit of research on your coin before you go annealing it, so that you know how to anneal it. Right, so I'm going to put this in the punch now, and right from the word go, I mean, I want the date on this to be on the outside of the ring, so I'm going to be pressing it from the head's side, so even though it won't bend while I'm punching it, I'm still going to punch it with the date side down and the head side up. Right, there's just one thing I just want to point out on this. You put the coin into the base and screw the cap down on it. What makes this different to a coin to the sort of my earlier versions of this is just this little ring in the top in the cap, because basically that's left there for a reason and it will clamp the coin in place. So when that's screwed down, well, you don't have to screw it down really tight. That coin won't move about in there. And I'll just show you an earlier version of one of my coin ring tools. Right, so here's an early version of one of my coin ring tools that I made for myself. I mean, this didn't screw on, it was made one side for 2 bob and one side for an half crown. And it just had an 1/2 inch hole in it. And basically the coin went in there, this cap sat over the top, and you punch through it. Worked fine, and I used it for a while before I developed it further. The main downside to this was the coin was just sitting there. So you had to hold, and when it could try to bend itself as you were punching it, this cap doesn't hold the coin down. But that's not used, I don't use that anymore. So the coin's in the tool, and you just drop the punch into the top. It's pretty obvious which way around the punch goes. The punching side is sharp on the edge and it's got a slight angle on it. The side you're going to bring the ram down onto has got a slight chamfer. It's not sharp. So we just drop that in there, and now we'll go over to my 6-ton hydraulic press and punch the coin. Right, I've got the tool pretty much centred under the ram, and it's not so much that there's a right and wrong way to do this, but there's a better way. There's a better way and a not so good way. Now what you don't want to do is just whack down on the, building up all the pressure in your bottle jack in your press, because every time you squeeze this, once it gets under pressure, you're building up a lot of latent energy, and you don't actually need it. My preferred method is to bring the, let me zoom in on the ramp. Right, so I'll bring it down to, okay, so now it's on the ram. Okay, so I've got, I've brought the ram down onto it so that it's sort of fixed in position now. Now I'm just going to lift the handle up. I'm squeezing down on it about a length of the stroke of the jack, and I'm going to stop. I'm going to give it a few seconds. I'm going to lift the handle up again, and I'm going to pull down on it a little bit more. I mean, it does bang when it goes through. Whatever happens, you're going to have some built up kinetic energy in this thing before it punches the coin. But we are punching the sort of biggest UK coin you're going to do, so this is the one that takes all the pressure with the biggest punch. So I've let that sit again for another couple of seconds, and I'm going to put it the rest of the way down, and there it goes. often you'll find if you do it in a nice slow and easy fashion like that, it'll sometimes punch through even when you're not pulling down on the handle of your press. So let's release the ram and we'll take the punch tool back over to the bench, and I'll move the camera so you can see what's happening. Alright, so here we are back at the bench. So what you'll find when you take the cap off is that you've got a coin with a punch through it. You look at that, you can see the sort of distance that's gone through the coin, and that was doing it quite easily. I mean, ideally you just want enough pressure to push that through just a coin's thickness really, but you're never going to achieve that. But I find that if you try it out and you just go mad and really go for it, you'll find this is much further down the punch and it's consequently a little bit harder to get off. I've got a feeling it's something to do with the kinetic heat and that build up, and your coin will stick on there worse than it already is, and they're already stuck on quite hard. In the bottom of the punch you'll have the slug that's come out of the middle of the coin, and that's got to come out as well. You really need to get them out every time. You don't want to let them build up, or they really do become hard to get out. So just a word of caution about this. These punches are heat treated, so they're made very hard and then let down to about the hardness of a sort of lathe cutting tool, but they do have a certain brittleness about them. If you just take a steel hammer to it and try and knock it off like that, there's chances are you'll chip the edges of your punch, so you don't want to do that. You also need to get the slug out. So what I generally do is you can do this on your with your ram if you want, but I turn the bottom of the body of the coin ring punch upside down, pop that in there, it will come up against the slug obviously, and use a little bit of hardwood or plastic, or use a plastic hammer, even a hide hammer, although the coin punch does tend to damage hide hammers. I use a little blocks of MDF and tap that down. That's the slug out of it. I keep the slugs. And don't throw your slugs away. There's mine. There's various middles in there, from 2 shilling pieces with a 15mm punch. There's some other very small ones I did. I made a special punch for I think they were shillings. I did a special job for. But these are worth keeping, these, because they've got some quite nice patterns on them, and you can make other jewellery out of them. You clean them up. So you can see there's the shield of the coin in that one. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Anyway, keep your slugs. Make something else out of them. So now we just need to carry on with that to get the punch out of the coin. Now when you get flat with the coin, with a piece of wood, you've now got to get it right out. I'll just use a piece of brass as like a centre punch in the middle of the punch and tap it out. Don't use a bit of steel, always use a bit of brass or even plastic or even a wooden dowel, but don't ever hit your punch directly with another sort of steel hammer. You stand a good chance of damaging it. So there we go. We've got an half crown with an hole in the middle of it. Right, I just want to point something out. Right, I just went to get my calipers. Let's just tidy these bits up a bit. So you've punched a hole perfectly in the centre of the coin. Well, when you're using an old coin, it's going to have been in circulation for some time. I mean, this has been kicking around since 1953. The coin itself is never going to be perfectly round. And if I measure this, I mean, I've got 8.7 millimeters on the opposite side. I've got 8.5 millimeters. So there's 0.2 of a millimeter difference across that aspect. I'll try this one. That's 8.53 and that's 8.6. So there's 0.07 of a millimeter difference on that. It's not a problem. I mean, it's the way the coin is. Where this will become more apparent is when you start the pressing, and we're nearly ready to start the pressing now. So I'll tidy these bits away, I'll get the folding cones, and we'll move on to pressing the coin. In the meantime, I am going to re-anneal this. You can't anneal it too much, but you can anneal them not enough. So certainly when you're starting, before you get a feel for it, anneal too much rather than not enough. So I'll anneal this, tidy these bits away, get the other bits out, and we'll go on to the next bit.